A long time ago, on a comics page far, far away. Greetings and welcome to May the Panel Be With You, the Star Wars comic book show brought to you by the Punch Up Entertainment Network. I am your humble host, Mike Gargoni, and joining me, as always, the small thermal exhaust port to my Death Star, it is John Campbell.
Oh man, I am your greatest weakness. Well, here it is, folks. We've reached the end of... I can't wait to see how this turns out. What's going to happen?
We've made that joke 3 times now.
I know. And I'll make it some more. I will never stop. Yeah, we're finishing up the Star Wars A New Hope manga adaptation this week.
Yes, indeed. The 4th and final issue of this, our most favorite adaptation of Star Wars A New Hope thus far.
I think absolutely. It is far and away the most interesting adaptation. It's the one that stands on its own. And like I said, if you're going to own one, this is the one I think is worth owning just as a piece of art for sure.
Absolutely. We've said often that there are quite a few pages in these books that we would love to have as prints in our homes.
Well, yeah, because like I said, this one is an actual artistic interpretation of the movie, as opposed to the other ones that feel like just sort of marketing material.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, we are on issue number 4. Basically the same creative team as before.
Yep.
This one probably released December 2nd, 1998, because our information's a little bit shaky.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. But we have got Hisao Tamaki, the person who is in charge of the art for this book.
Person or people or...
Person or persons.
Yeah.
We've got Tom Orzechowski on letters and art retouches. We've got Adam Warren and Joseph White on the covers. And obviously adapted by the script by George Lucas.
Mm-hmm. Oh, who?
Just a...
Has he done anything
I saw, American Graffiti. There was a trailer
that's good.
in the theater for a re-release of American Graffiti that I saw just the other day.
Hell yeah.
And I turned to the person go to the theater with me. I was like, "Have you ever seen American Graffiti?" And she goes, "No, I've never even heard of that movie." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's fair."
Well, yeah, I mean, it's always the Francis Ford Coppola thing about Star Wars robbed us of the guy who made American Graffiti, and I don't think he's wrong. Like, there is not a lot in that movie that immediately leads you to Star Wars, and you're like, oh look, the birth of like an indie character-driven filmmaker. Oh, never mind. American Graffiti is so interesting, although it is where he first meets Harrison Ford. So
it's true. Seeing baby-faced Harrison Ford in that movie is something else.
A character not dissimilar to Han Solo, I'll just say.
Not Han Solo.
Yeah, he's a hot rodder of the night. Anyway, if you haven't seen American Graffiti, go watch it. There is a recent, and that's probably what they're showing in theaters, a really nice 4K restoration that came out recently that is gorgeous. I'm a big fan of that movie, so... But it is, much different.
But let's talk about the thing that ruined George Lucas, and that is Star Wars.
It both made and ruined him. I do think that Coppola, like I said, is not wrong. We got this cover here that very much promises us some form of trench run in this.
I think there may or may not be a trench run in this issue, John.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, we got this Adam Warren cover here. We got the classic. This is something I think of all the time in anime specifically, because it's done a lot in like mech anime, like Gundam and whatnot, where you have like the superimposed action of the vehicle and then the person inside the vehicle expressing some emotion while the vehicle is moving.
I definitely one of my only real like anime or manga loves is Speed Racer, and I definitely have some Speed Racer collections that have covers similar to this.
100%, yeah. And that is a show that pioneered the vehicle moving while face is being displayed while the person is moving shot.
Yep. Yeah, I do have a great affinity for Speed Racer. So, so we go through. We've got our normal. The beginnings of these now are like, it's Star Wars. They tell us once again about the flipping of the mirroring of.
Again, the art here has been compromised.
It has. I feel like actually the last issue had the least of that we've seen, issue 3.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that was like really noticeable for me was that there are moments in the movie where people are going in directions down corridors that were obviously flipped in this book that made me go, no, Han moves to the left here.
Right, yeah.
But
And
it doesn't.
Yeah. I mean,
Not
it
a big
is
deal.
what it is. I understand why they did it, even if it's, a compromise.
Right.
So anyway, let's open up the book here.
Because people can't read things right to left because we're dumb Americans.
What would be interesting, actually, is I feel it probably wouldn't matter in this. Would it not? It would matter less, I feel like, digitally. Because you don't have at least the strange starting point of reading the book from the other end.
Yeah. I think it would matter a lot less digitally because you're still like flipping through the pages in that way. And I've read manga online that you do still read it right to left, but you flip the pages next one by hitting the next button.
That's at least not a. It's what I'm saying is that at least it cuts like half of the bizarre, to us as Western readers.
Yeah,
it's like subtitles in a movie though too. You just get used to stuff, right? You consume enough of anything. I've
read enough manga at this point that's just like, okay, I flip this way. That's just how.
It's the same thing with me and watching foreign films. It's like, I don't want to read the subtitles. I go, I don't even really think about it. I just watch a movie and it is what it is. All right. So we're coming out of where we last left our heroes. They were being pursued by TIE fighters after escaping the Death Star.
We start off with this big double-page spread of the Falcon just zooming
down,
out of
too.
space.
I like that it's coming out like this. It's coming out with the top side down. I thought that was really cool.
Which is weird because, again, the art is flipped, so it reads as that's the correct side that the cockpit should be on. So when I first read this page, I was like, oh, that's just how it normally looks. Wait, no, hold on.
Right, no, it's upside down, yeah. And, of course, 3PO's scared.
Yeah, well, 3PO has been, bound up in wires because there was an explosion, and that's a thing that happens in the movie, is him getting, tossed around while this is all happening.
And then the immediate, the juxtaposition of these two pages of, that's it, we did it, yay! And then cut to, this is all part of the plan.
Yeah. And that's, this right here is what people often use to try to defeat the argument that stormtroopers can never hit anything, right? It's letting them escape was all part of the plan.
Absolutely. And, oh God, any pose of Tarkin. Does Tarkin spend 90% of his day just staring out at the stars? This is always what I think of Tarkin, is just yes.
I'm convinced that Tarkin is double jointed by the amount of time he spends with his hands clasped behind his back.
And Cushing was that's so much of his physicality. One of the great things about his Tarkin performance is that ramrod straight military precision. He's already a super sleek, skinny dude, and then he's just this yes. I mean, we always a friend of the show, Brendan Jones, and I always love the charming to the last. Just this idea that everything with him is precise and proper,
I love the line here. We're taking an awful risk, Vader. This had better work.
And Vader you never see any parts of the face of his mask. He is just this dark shadow. And once again, a totally
goddamn, this book's Vader is so cool.
He's so cool. But then you also have this Tarkin who's never intimidated by that. He's just like, hey, pal. You're taking a big risk here. Just the idea that Tarkin is like, I will have your ass for this if it doesn't work. I love it. That's one of the things I love about Tarkin. He's the one human character, totally human, non-force powered character, just like, hey buddy, don't forget who's in charge. And that Vader, whether he's just sort of going along with it, at the very least does kind of back down a little bit from Tarkin. There's still a chain of command. He may be just doing it for his purposes of the moment, but in that movie when he's like, that's enough, Vader, and he does it, you're like, oh shit, Tarkin is, wow, this guy, man.
Yeah, again, the read that Tarkin is the main antagonist of the first Star Wars movie is 100%. Not incorrect.
100%. And that's actually one of the things that I think really works about that script as part of the franchise, is Vader is a henchman structurally in that movie.
Yeah.
So
we cut back to our heroes after they got loose, and we get some really that good Han Leia dialogue here. That's it for me, sister.
Yeah. I always loved him calling her sister. Nothing better than your worshipfulness, though. So yeah,
a little bit of a manga overreaction from Leia here. She's running away.
yeah, and
Your friend's quite the mercenary.
and Luke Skywalker being like, "Oh, wow." I find that the Han manga reactions are better because even though they're still cartoonish, they're a little bit more fitting of his character. That like, than Luke just being like, "What?"
The deadpan, like I'm so over this attitude that Solo has is really exemplified.
Yeah. I think that is evocative of the Harrison Ford performance, where I feel like they are. The cartoonish style is actually accentuating some of the worst aspects of Hamill's performance.
I love this next page, though, because while it is pretty cartoony, the absolutely I'm fucking with this kid nature of the Han-Luke interaction.
All the Han stuff
here
is great. Once again, I have almost no issues with any of the Han stuff. Luke's eyebrows literally turning into these lines, though, like...
Because, yeah, Han's got his classic, like, still, she's got a lot of spirit. I don't know. What do you think? You think the princess and a guy like me, and, yeah, Luke turning into just angry emoji face. No.
Yeah, because I actually really like the way Hamill does that in the movie. It's such a flat, just like, no. Mm-hmm. And here there's like, no.
But it's played up because we then clearly get this shot of Han with this like Cheshire Cat grin of just like he's clearly fucking with this kid.
No, the Han stuff, like I said, I think they really nail the tone of the Han performance. So, boy, once again, talk about another just great individual image is the Falcon coming out of hyperspace here on this next page.
Yeah, heading towards Yavin 4.
So cool.
Yeah, this is one of those pages where it's like, I wish we had color, because Yavin, the gas giant, is such an evocative, like, it's a great, colorful image in the movie.
Yeah, it's one of the planets that most stands out when you just see it in the atlas or whatever.
Yeah.
And I like, once again, being able to take the time in this longer form of we're going at the planet onto the surface, getting a sense of it. But
what kind of moon is it, John? I can't tell. There's no glaring text bubbles telling me what kind of moon this is. How am I supposed to know?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because this is really effectively doing what we complained about the 70s adaptation of taking way too much time. This just presents it. Here's the planet. Here's the trees. There's a rustle of something. The planet's alive in some way, and then
is it choked with jungle growth? How am I supposed to know without the words telling me, John?
Yeah. I mean, this is one of my big issues, and I was just having this conversation once again with Brendan Jones, who's a huge fan of classic comic books, and I am more of an appreciator from like a historical standpoint of classic comics. But I was talking about basically anything before 1980. I struggle with because they're just so overwritten.
I think it really depends on the writer, because sometimes they use all of that verbose prose to accentuate a mood, a la Claremont in his best times.
I was going to say the exception there is always Claremont because it's so well done, and it's additive, right? It's not.
I would say that Simonson is also very good. Both Simonsons, in fact, Walt and Louise.
Correct. Louise,
are both very good at that sort of thing.
Who, by the way, is back over on Superman, which I'm very excited about. She's back writing in the Superman world again, Louise Simonson.
Oh, cool.
Which makes me very happy.
But that is not the norm in that era of comic books, where a lot of the time it feels like, looking at you, Roy Thomas, the words are there to re-describe what you're already seeing as art.
Or I'm sorry, she's not back over in Superman. She's writing Jean Grey she's writing the Jean Grey solo book.
Oh, that's way more exciting for me personally, because her X Factor run is really good.
Yes, that's what she's doing.
And that's a lot of Jean Grey stuff there.
Yeah, so she's currently writing a Jean Grey solo series which I haven't read yet, but I'm excited to check out because, I mean, I think of her on the X books and on the Superman books as some of her best stuff. She created Steel, for God's sake, and I love Steel.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Anyway, back to Yavin. We're
back to this.
Complaining about stuff that's not happening here.
My favorite
here, they're just showing us the art.
My favorite character in all of Star Wars, the sad, lonely guy who has to stand up on that post.
Is there a bathroom up here? No. You got a bucket.
Me? Is anyone... What is... How you expect me to... All right. Nobody likes this guy, right? They're just like, yeah, put Dave up in the crow's nest. Yeah, he'll be fine up there. He can check the speeds of stuff coming in.
It's fine. He's got one headphone in. He's listening to his podcast. He kind of likes it up there, honestly. Doesn't have to deal with all of the stuff down here in the hangar.
Oh my god, the podcast of the Star Wars world. I'm
today on This American Jawa.
I'm Ira Glass. This is This Tatooine Life. Our story today in 3 acts. You ever noticed a Jawa who's
It was a rainy day on the streets of Nalhada, and we find our victim, yes, who would eventually become murdered.
Bling, 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 bling. It's always that same music in every true crime podcast, I swear. Is that
yeah.
All right. Love this giant panel of the fleet of ships in the hangar.
Yeah. Got our Y-Wings, got our X-Wings. We got... I actually don't know this character's name. It's the guy who comes up and greets them when he comes in. Because it's not General Dodonna. That's Beardface. He comes later.
Dude, if you don't know the name of somebody, I sure as hell don't know the name of somebody. Yeah. I mean, Dodonna was like a somewhat recent knowledge for me that was the... He was always Beard. It's Beard for say. Yeah, so even here he just calls him Commander. Anyway, so everybody's here. Everybody's happy that they're there and alive after.
We got to get the information out of R2.
But then
we get this next big splash page. We get guess who showing up at Yavin. It's of course the Death Star.
And it's so cool the way this is drawn because it's like it makes it seem like, and some of that is just the perspective is like the Death Star is either as big, if not bigger, than Yavin 4. Look at this huge, imposing thing. I always love the Death Star. I love so much of the marketing for Rogue One being that Death Star in the sky. Like, I just like the idea of this just like, holy shit. Even before that, you know what this thing does. Just that looks like a super weapon.
That's no moon.
Yeah, exactly. So
I love this book has done it a couple of times, but I think this page does it well as well, which is the idea that the Death Star is so big that when it like comes out of hyperspace, it disturbs space around it when it appears.
Exactly, and it's doing this like it's not doing like a whooshing sound. It's doing this like, oh, it's just this slow impending thing that's coming through. Yeah, it's not portrayed necessarily as fast as much as it's just portrayed as this force. Yeah. Here it comes. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so now we get our old friend Beardface Dodonna.
Hey, there's Dodonna. And a bunch of other pilots that we barely recognize because they all kind of have the same face here.
Yep. But the approach will not be easy, and you know it's because BAM! Here comes Emerald Lagasse going BAM!
And we have another moment here where in the movie just stops to show us a technical readout for like a minute.
It really does. All right, take a look at this. Next slide. And so, so everybody's tired.
But it turns out if they hit a precise point, it'll cause a chain reaction. Who knew? I'll tell you who knew.
Galen Erso?
Galen Erso. Very
good. Thanks, Galen Erso. Is Mads Mikkelsen one of the secret heroes of Star Wars? You know it.
100%. That's basically the premise of that whole movie.
Yeah. And also, what's one of my favorite things in that movie is just, here, we're going to make a 2-hour movie to explain something that people have been joking about forever. And it's like, boom, there it is. That's right. It's Mads Mikkelsen, folks.
Yeah. No.
Also nice to see a rare American movie that uses him in a heroic role.
Yeah, true. So Luke being like, I've hit Womp Rat with my T-16 back home. We can do this. But
do you think anybody was ever just like, what a goddamn hayseed, am I right? Come on.
100%. Like people in that briefing are just like, what the fuck is this nobody coming out of nowhere?
Some backwater farm kid is telling us what to do.
Yeah. Somewhere in the back of the room, Biggs Darklight is going, son of a bitch. But
so anyway, the Death Star continues to gurn at the planet.
It's gurning in some big ways.
Yeah.
Because we get Tarkin and Vader here again. I like Vader's little, like, just kind of subtle self back-patting here. It's like, I got Kenobi. We're going to blow up the rebellion. What a great day.
Yeah, this is going to be pretty great, right, Tarkin? Come on, man. Come on. This is going to be pretty sweet.
Tarkin.
Yeah.
Up top.
Yeah, come on.
Top, Tarkin.
Come on, man. Give it up for evil. Give it up for evil. Come on.
Oppressive dictatorships for the win.
This is what it's about. Oh, the Emperor's going to be so happy. I can't wait to go tell him. I've already got his number dialed in. Let me just... Like, they're going to call this guy immediately. Okay. All right.
Question. If Vader needs to dial a phone number, is it on his panel on his chest?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely.
Okay. Just making sure.
And some of those are speed dial. Like, the first button just goes right to Palpatine.
Yeah, 100%. Okay.
These are my favorites. I've got...
All right, next page, we've got all the fighters getting to your station.
Yep, everybody's running.
What's this? Han Solo's leaving.
With his, once again, always love trunks full of money.
Well, look, the rebellion has a strict banking system that involves trunks, okay?
I've always loved the idea of this. Like, here's Han's reward, and it's just crates. And so, yeah, Han's like, I got to get out of here, man, because I got some old debts. There's a big slug guy who wants money, and he's going to kill me. And Luke, of course, is pissed, as per usual.
Yeah. But I do like this last panel here because it does reinforce this moment that the other adaptations really haven't, with Luke being like, yeah, all right, well, you take care of yourself then. I guess that's what you're best at, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And Han not even turning around. Yeah. And I like this beat here, saying like, hey, Luke, may the Force be with you.
Yeah. It's like that's as much as I'm willing to give you.
Yeah.
He wants the best for Luke, but it's like, well, I'm going to get all sappy here. Mm-hmm. That's probably what you want to hear. You stupid, my best friend, though.
Scruffy looking. Who's scruffy looking?
Yeah, I mean, that's always Han Solo's thing, right? Is he would be like, whatever, I love Luke as my brother, but I would never say anything about it. Stupid
yeah, exactly.
Feelings.
We get Leia and Luke meeting up before he takes off. We get a brief smooch. Let's not linger on it. It's fine.
It's still chase, though a little bit more romantic than the one we saw when they swung across the in the Death Star, and you only know this because it has a heart above it.
Yeah, and it is a reaction seemingly to him saying, I wish my dead friend was here.
Yep. Sure. I wish my dead old man best friend. Is Obi-Wan the beginning of young people with old man best friends that was so much of the 80s? Because so much of the... I mean, I'm not the first person to talk about this. So much of the movies we grew up on were about, like, teenage boys with old man best friends.
When was the, like, trucker CB craze? Because I feel like there was a lot of that there, too.
That's right around the same time.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, because you got to keep in mind, the Star Wars was the number 1 movie in 1977. Number 2 movie in 1977, Smokey and the Bandit.
Yeah, I was going to say, where does Smokey and the Bandit fall into that spectrum?
They're right there at the same time. Okay. In fact, the Fox was actually really scared of Smokey and the Bandit when they put Star Wars out. They thought, "Oh shit, we're gonna get destroyed by Smokey and the Bandit," which once again was a massive hit. It was just number 2 to Star Wars.
It's in hindsight, that's so funny.
It's so funny though. They were just like, "Oh shit, we've got Star Wars, but they've got Smokey and the Bandit. That thing is gonna be the movie of the year."
People really don't understand how popular CB radios were for a brief slice of the late 70s and early 80s.
CB radios, and legitimately, and people can laugh at this, the number 1 box office star in the world at the time was Burt Reynolds. He was the most popular leading man. And I know that seems like, because he's become this, kind of figure of derision, which is not fair. I do love Burt Reynolds. But yes, I keep in mind.
I think it's a little fair.
There is a distinct, and Smoking the Bandit's the beginning of it. There's a distinct time when he kind of stopped acting and was just Burt Reynolds in every movie, and that's what they're deriding. And that's fair. All right, all pilots.
Speaking of guys with mustaches,
man, this is how they really could have goosed Star Wars even more if this had been Burt Reynolds. Hey, how you doing there, Luke?
So here's an interesting beat in this adaptation, which I don't know how I feel about it. In the first issue of this, I lauded the ability for them to work in the initial Biggs sequences as like remembrances from Luke.
Right.
And that made me think that going into this fourth issue, we'd maybe get a little bit of a better emphasis on Biggs and have it make more contextual sense.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't.
I think it speaks to something which is just Biggs. No offense to the guy who played everything, but I just think needed to be excised entirely. Really.
Yeah.
He didn't work. It's a good idea on paper, but I think even if you included both of those scenes in the movie, it still wouldn't have had an impact. He's just not necessary. We just don't care about that relationship, especially when
the fact
Han
that like
Solo
Luke
comes in.
Yeah. Luke never lingers on this other friend he has, except for these two poles at the end of the film. And so the fact that there's no mention or reference to him for the intervening hour.
That's what I mean. It's still that, and so that's what I'm saying. I've always been of the opinion that they should have, once they deleted the beginning stuff, they needed to delete this. But I would also say, I just think even if it was there, it's still, yeah, you're right. It's like, oh, remember that guy? Even if you left that in and then it comes back here, you still would have gone like, remember that guy from the opening that you've now completely forgotten because you've met 6 characters you like more? You know,
yeah.
I just don't. I understand the idea of it. They're trying to put personal stakes in the thing, but it kind of he already lost. That's another thing too. Big's death means nothing in comparison to losing Obi-Wan. It just dramatically doesn't work, and I think this shows that even when you include both things, you're still like, yeah, I just don't care.
Yeah.
Sorry,
we get some very, very rude engineers saying R2 isn't up to snuff here.
Yeah, holy shit, man. Get off his ass.
But we get all the little sequences of all the people moving around
Love
the hangar.
all that stuff. As a Starship nerd who loves procedure, this is my jam, man. I love them fueling up stuff.
You want to see them pulling hoses out of things and gesturing for things to move forward slowly.
Leaning slightly more towards Star Trek makes sense because it's all about just like, I could hear people talk about isolinear chips and dilithium chambers all day. I love that procedure.
We need to recompress the plasma coils all day long.
Yeah. And if we have to eject the core to, whatever. Yeah, that's. But I love all this stuff too. I love the Top Gun and Star Wars. That's why I want that Rogue Squadron movie. I love the idea of just how insane and wild and fantastic this world is, but still, like, you've got guys on the ground signaling ships out and stuff like that. It just makes everything feel more real and tactile. There's people running around with jobs, so you buy. I think that was something Lucas was so good about, was how real everything felt, even in the context of this fantastical world.
Well, it's half of what makes, like, on paper, some pretty boring characters in Battlestar Galactica so compelling. In terms of, like, the whole engineering crew.
100%.
Like, no. You need this ground crew or else the ships don't fly. And if the ships don't fly, we're not going to have our exciting space battles and everybody dies.
Boy, you better believe. We were both massive Battlestar fans. And, boy, that gives you some real nice ship nerd stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that stuff is great.
So we get even more of it here on this next page as everyone's like putting in hoses and taking off hoses and giving thumbs ups and everyone's taking off.
You've got the guy who I would be in the rebellion just with the signal things going out. We're going out. Yep. Oh, I'm not getting up on one of the ships. I'll be a land guy. And so, they're taking off. This cut into Luke as he's sort of readying himself for battle. And then, this great shot of, once again, our friend up in the crow's nest as everybody speeds off into the sky.
Yeah, we get this big double-wide page where we get Princess Leia in the control room, we get all the ships taking off, and them getting out into space, I think is a great use of pacing here, so we establish where everybody is.
Yep, and then we get all our pilots checking in up there, and the X-Wing wings start to open up, which is always such a cool shot in the movie. Where
you got to lock S-foils into attack position, Sean. That's just how those work.
Of course, man. Once again, procedure. That's my shit. I love all that stuff where it's like, this is how we do it. So
Red 2 here is Wedge, correct?
Yes.
And Red 6 is Porkins.
Correct.
Both of those are nearly, let us call them unrecognizable?
Well, Porkins is a little bit he's got a double chin.
But does Porkins have a mustache in the movie?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I guess he's got a blonde mustache here, and that's throwing me.
Okay, the blonde is the thing about it that's weird. Yeah. Let me take a look here at Porkins. Oh, Porkins has kind of a goatee actually in the movie.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like,
Yeah.
I always like think of him as like a little bit unkempt.
Yes. By the way, the late great William Hootkins played Porkins, who also played Eckhart in 1989's Batman.
Of course.
And he's the guy who sends Indiana Jones after the Ark in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I guess he does have like a blonde.
It's not this
beard.
though. This makes it like
Yeah.
where it's melting into his flesh, and it is more of like a sort of scruffier looking goatee.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, he's the fat guy. They have captured that.
But he's flying a starship, damn it.
Well, I do love that they hey man, this is a world where they are not body shaming anybody. He is 100% in there. He will die, of course, but whatever, man.
Look, but they're
But
going
I agree,
in.
there is nothing to indicate that that's Wedge. Or that's Wedge.
No, because it's like, look at the size of that thing. That's
My,
the Wedge line in
My
in A
favorite
New Hope.
My favorite pilot by far. I love Wedge.
Oh yeah, 100%. But that is due only to expanded universe stuff.
Well, and it's due only to expand universe stuff, which stems from, I think, in the reverse. Then when you go back to it, and I think where the expanded universe started is he's just the guy who's in every battle, and you're just like, dude, this guy's a badass. He's survived every major battle.
He's the only guy who has like the tie stamps on the side of his ship, and he also has 2 Death Star stamps.
Yeah, where you're going like, wait a minute. It's like I said, I'm sure that's where that started too. Is you start to realize like, wait, there's been one guy who's also been at every battle Luke's been at and has survived and kicked ass, and he's there. I mean, they do spotlight him in the celebration at the end of Jedi.
Totally, yeah. No,
that guy rules.
I am not trying to diminish Wedge. I'm just saying,
No.
this particular adaptation doesn't bring any attention to Wedge, as opposed to the special edition one, which was like, you guys know Wedge, right? We all love Wedge.
And that makes so much sense because that was so Dark Horse, and a lot of Dark Horse's stuff was about Wedge. Some of the best Dark Horse stuff. I mean, we'll talk about the Rogue Squadron stuff eventually, which is so much of my 90s Star Wars fandom was for that series specifically.
Totally.
All right.
We get this huge, really complicated page next, where they're
Lord.
diving in towards the Death Star.
That is epic.
Yeah, it looks like they're diving at a computer motherboard.
It really does. All of a sudden, we're in Tron.
Oh man, don't tease me with Star Wars Tron.
Yeah. By the way, we're still in the middle of a writer's strike. You saw that thing. They were like a week away from starting to film Tron Ares. When they
You
got
mean
shut
the
down
Tron movie that's never going to happen?
The director was like, we were a week away from rolling cameras, and then the strike hit. And I'm like,
Wow.
damn it.
That movie is cursed.
Yeah, it really is. It's a bummer. So I love Tron. All right. Yeah, so there you go. So they're flying into the grid. And I love because another, of course, big influence on Star Wars was World War II movies, right?
Yeah.
And when we cut into the Imperial guys with this massive, what looks like an old anti-aircraft gun, basically.
Yeah.
And they're just
I mean,
letting loose.
One of the famous stories of like the original edits of Star Wars is before any of the special effects stuff was done.
Yeah.
Lucas would like literally take old plane footage from World War II and cut it into scenes to give you a sense of the motion and kind of like what they intend to have the final thing look like.
There's some of the documentaries show this where you can actually see the side by side of what he was cutting in and like just replace the X-wing and make it space, and the camera movement is exactly the same. It's very cool.
Yeah.
If people want to check out a movie called The Dam Busters, that in particular was a big influence, and you'll see a lot of Star Wars type action in that movie. In terms of the aerial combat stuff. All right, so everybody's going in, and then once again, all this stuff.
Yeah.
So fantastic.
This is going to be another issue where we're kind of just cruising through pages because a lot of it is dialogueless and a lot of it is just like quick cuts of the action, but it's conveying the action so well and so purposefully.
Yeah, and
if you're not watching us on YouTube, highly recommend come join us over on YouTube so you can see these panels as we move through them.
They're gorgeous, and like I said, the chaos of it, the violence of it, in a way that I'm not talking about like violence in terms of gore, but just in terms of the explosions, the intensity. You really feel like, holy crap, these people are really outgunned here.
We get this whole sequence here where it's like, Luke, pull out, as he's like being awashed in white light, and
God,
there's this
that's great.
boom.
Love
and
that.
then we get Biggs really concerned, like, oh, are you okay? And Luke being like, I got a little cooked, but I'm all right.
And more gurning as we go into the Death Star. And once again, you've got just a guy in a uniform next to a goddamn ghost in black, you know?
He is the Flying Dutchman, right?
He really is. That's great, man. Get the crews, they're fighters, and I mean, once again, and the motion
We'll
of it.
take them ship to ship.
Once again, the art style of this implies like there's all these people. We're in the middle of battle, and they're sending everybody to this and over there. And there's stormtroopers running. I don't know what the stormtroopers think they're gonna do. I guess they're readying for in case there's like an incursion.
Yeah, they don't know what's happening. For all they know, these guys are like going to take out a section, and then suddenly another ship's going to come in, and they're going to board a bunch of rebels onto the Death Star. Like, there's the what if. What if the rebels like do a tactical landing on the Death Star?
I mean, Rise of Skywalker tries to do that.
Yeah.
I know. I'm not allowed to talk about it. I signed that contract saying I'm not allowed to talk about it anymore. Porkins blows up. Sorry, Mario.
What an offhanded statement where it's like, yeah, okay, we get to this next page and cover me, Porkins. I'm right with you, Red 3. And then, yeah, just boom, Porkins blows up.
Porkins looking like Mario blows up. And Porkins goes up, man.
Yeah. Look, we get this punch in from Luke where he hears a voice saying, Luke, trust your feelings. Again, this is going to read as hypocrisy from me, but this is an instance where they have no indication about why Luke is hearing this voice in the comic book version of this. Mm-hmm. Other than the fact that in the previous issues, whenever Obi-Wan has said a line that will eventually be repeated as a Force ghost, they've punched in on him and devoted a lot of time to those lines.
They also... Yes, and I think that was... but I also like here that they make it these sort of like emanations as opposed to like word or thought bubbles. It's almost just like a thing. They're doing all they can, right?
Yeah.
Because the only other thing is to literally do like a translucent Obi-Wan. Right. They could have had an actual ghost. That'd be tougher in black and white, I feel like, because everything is already so white and just lines.
And it would also diminish the like literal Force ghosts we have later,
but I do
right?
like that at least they give a sense of, it's an ethereal voice.
Yeah. And Luke with this look of just like, what the fuck? Is something wrong with my helmet?
It's still weird once again, and also it's still going of we know because you're not reading this if you haven't seen the movie. But it is the best attempt at doing this that I've seen in these.
Because it's not, like you said, it's not literally a thought bubble that could be kind of...
Right, yeah. I mean, like, I think in a couple of them, it just seems like... there's like, is there someone in the X-Wing? So, yeah, they're being chased by TIE fighters. Here they come. More explosions.
I love the, like, Sidewinder kind of, like, contrails of the X-Wings flying past.
This is doing a lot of what we were talking about. I think that, once again... to just keep shitting on that special edition adaptation, but how can we not? Because we saw them so close together in there. But this is doing so much of what we complained about on there, which is really conveying the motion, really making you feel. Because you're looking at static images on a page, they're trying to convey what is hyperkinetic action in a movie, and this does such a better job of it. And it's something I think we'll see when we get to the more modern Star Wars comics. Of even though they're not manga. Just as art style improves and artists get more experimental, more modern Star Wars comics do a much better job of conveying this level of action.
Totally. I mean, I know a comic you and I are both a fan of is the recent Marvel Poe Dameron comic.
Yeah,
I think
great.
does an excellent job, especially with the spaceship battling stuff.
100%, and that's so key to that. And I think we'll see that also even in the Rogue Squadron stuff.
Totally.
So we got Vader going to his TIE fighter.
Several of the fighters have broken off from the main group. Vader being like, I'll handle them myself.
Which is, once again, I'm just putting myself back in, like, I don't remember I don't remember ever a time of seeing the first Star Wars without seeing the other two. Like, I think we've talked about Star Wars has always just lived as this trilogy to us. I can't, to think of watching this movie in 77, all of a sudden this guy who seems to be some sort of higher up in the military, has magic powers, can lightsaber duel, and then now he's gonna go get in a ship and be awesome too. You're just like, who is this guy? This guy rules.
Biggs can't shake him. Luke can't shake him. Nobody can shake anybody these days.
Nobody can shake anybody. Boy, I had. Did you have? I had the X-wing toy that had sayings from the movie.
Oh yeah, of course.
And one of the buttons.
Can't shake him.
Yeah, one of the buttons was "Can't shake him."
The other one was "He came from behind."
Red 5 going in. I remember those were the three that they can't shake him. Can't shake him. Yeah, I heard that so much as a kid.
Big double page spread as Wedge does get a name drop here as he saves Luke. Good job, Wedge.
Thanks, Wedge. Wedge rules, man.
Of course.
Yeah. And so, but I do love all the explosions of the ships. I just love the fire and stuff coming off of them. Every ship that explodes, you're like, oh man, that thing got blown apart.
Yeah. There's a lot of good, like, fine detail ship work in this that can get lost in depending on the artist. But obviously the devotion of time here for it's a black and white comic, so like nothing is getting lost in any kind of coloring. It's all about shading and fine detail line work, which really exemplifies.
Well, let's go to the next
ship
page.
stuff.
Look at Vader and his tie versus the other ties, and they're coming in. Wow, you know,
love me a tie advance. I love this design of tie.
And once again, a shout out to whoever's doing the lettering and specifically the choice of the sound effects, because the hurree implies, and it's something that the sound design that's so much a key to the Star Wars is there's a different sound to the Imperial ships. When the ties come in, it is this whining like, oh shit, thing that's totally different than the sort of humming and vrooming of the X-Wings that I think they really capture here.
It's one of those things you don't really think about until it's pointed out to you. Yeah. And that is like the explicit differences in the sound design between even like how the blasters fire between the two sides is purposefully done differently as to differentiate them. And so many lesser science fiction movies of this era and a little bit later will not be as detail oriented, and that's why they feel a little bit cheaper, a little bit lacking.
I mean, because certainly we see after this after Star Wars comes out, there's a deluge of just a billion Star Wars copies, and maybe 2 of them have any sort of like Flash Gordon has a certain iconography to it.
But yeah, and that's
even
because
that
it's working on a pre-existing IP.
Yeah, even that's pulling. That's literally them going, oh, here's the thing that inspired Star Wars, and we're gonna pull so much from the comic strips and stuff like that. But like, you've got your Battle Beyond the Stars and Star Crash and shit like that. I could
go on forever about Star Crash. Yeah.
But where you're just going like, you guys have no idea what made this work. I mean, even
because they're
original
also
Battlestar Galactica.
A lot of them, and Battlestar Galactica, I think the original is such a interesting watershed moment in the idea that like studio executives and a lot of like people in charge of making things really didn't understand what it was that made Star Wars special. They just saw, oh, it's a space movie, right?
Yeah. I mean,
what a space movie is different from person to person, and all of those things don't necessarily equal a Star Wars.
It's literally Paramount going, don't we have a Star thing? Can we make a movie? We have a Star franchise sitting around, right? And that leads to Star Trek the Motion Picture, the worst Star Trek movie. Come at me. Come at me. I swear to God, I'm the biggest Star Trek fan out there, all right? And I cannot defend that movie. And I know it has its fans, but I'm sorry. That's a very hip opinion. If you enjoyed that movie, more power to you, but boy, it's tough to sit through. And that's saying something. But yet, I love Star Trek V. So, you know, I mean, I'm just saying. Like,
yeah, I'm about to say, John, you're the one who defends 5, so.
I'm just saying, the fact that I defend every other one, just got to speak to something.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
All right, so
speaking of defense, we got Vader defending the home turf here.
God damn, he looks cool in his TIE fighter.
I love this next page where we just get like him in the TIE cockpit just swathed in shadow.
Oh man,
I'll take them myself.
Yeah, they're really. This is the thing where it's like, okay, you're doing things only a comic book can do. Like, once again, don't try to be the movie. Don't try to do things like this where it's like, oh, you can feel it. It's evocative. It's doing something. It's being interesting art. Oh, it's so good, man. I don't want to capture.
Yeah, and we get Vader just wrecking these Y-Wings. Can't maneuver, too close, stay on target, loosen up, boom. This Y-Wing just goes up as Vader takes him out.
Oh, God, yeah. Like I said, every explosion here is so good. And yet you're just seeing Vader wrecking everybody because this, we see that go up. We see another Y-Wing explode here, and you're just like, boy, everybody's dying. And then, the most evil-looking Tarkin on this next page. Look,
because
at that.
this is the moment of like primeval hubris, right? This is the Tarkin's folly moment.
Yeah, because this is where they ask, like, should I have everybody ready to evacuate? Or should I have
evacuate in our moment of triumph?
Now, this guy isn't even saying let's evacuate. He's just saying, should we be prepared for a contingency where you should leave? And it is just where he's just like, are you kidding me? I'm about to be the guy who's going to put his foot on the throat of this thing.
Yeah.
I need it, because I think that's key here. It's not even about destroying the rebellion. It's about I need to be seen as the man who destroyed the rebellion.
Yeah. I got the Death Star like up and running. I destroyed Alderaan. I crushed the rebellion, and this all happened within 48 hours.
Do you think there's a scenario that Tarkin would have eventually tried to take the Emperor?
I mean, we'll get to some what if comics later, but like I think Tarkin is perfectly aware of the fact that the Emperor is kind of playing his own game here, and like when out in the galaxy among the like Imperial Navy, Tarkin is in charge. He doesn't need to sit on a throne.
Maybe that is the thing where it's like, yeah, that guy is just let him have the be the face of the Empire when everybody knows who's really running the show. He's almost like in the obvious, like, it's like so many of the guys under Hitler, right? It's like a Goebbels and stuff like that. Those guys weren't actually looking to be the Fuhrer because they knew they had the real power of that. Now, the difference is the Emperor actually does have power and vision, unlike an idiot like Adolf Hitler.
Well, and I think that's also something with Tarkin. It's just like, also, I'm not a space wizard, so...
Yeah, that's great. He can do his fucking magic or whatever. I'm going to get the shit done.
Right. And that's part of what makes Thrawn as a character later really compelling. And I think we'll get to some of the Thrawn novel adaptations later in
we definitely will. I'm a big fan of those.
Is that he is like a realpolitik commander who is just like, I'm concerned with what an individual can do who doesn't have space magic what you can accomplish via totalitarian dictatorship.
Boy, do I love Thrawn, man. Oh,
he's a cool guy.
Yeah. Yeah, real cool guy is what he's known as. All right, so let's go in here.
We got Dodonna getting all concerned. We got our X-Wings going in because the gold team is down, so Red Leader's got to take care of base.
This zooming of the trail of energy off of the engine, so cool. While stuff is exploding. Once again, there's just so much going on. I think that's a big thing that I'm so struck by, especially in comparison to the 70s comics. Look at how much is being conveyed in the same moment. It makes it seem like all this action is happening all at once.
I love this next page as like Red Leader goes in because we have the cannons firing. And this third panel down here at the bottom left of the page where it's literally just blur lines and you can't even really tell what's going on. But because of the context around that page, you know that some of those lines are blaster fire, some of those lines are actual ships, and some of those lines are the walls of the trench. And that's how fast all of this is coming at you.
Absolutely. Oh. It's great stuff, and
we're just gonna slobber over this for the rest.
Well, I mean, and once again, but like focusing on the little moments, the cutting to just the firing of the cannon, the booms, and like I said, they're choosing these moments that it's little touches like that really make it feel alive and intense, and it has that feeling of watching a movie where you're cutting to this and that and over here. It isn't just sort of these flatly presented pages that we've seen in some of the other stuff.
Right.
The special edition adaptation specifically.
Look, he's got to stay on target. Vader's coming in. They've got a couple. I love this in a couple of pages. This shot of Vader coming in with like the white streaks and the black outline, like the negative space of creating Vader's mask here as he's taking out the people following Red Leader here.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And then
I want that on like a metal band T-shirt.
Another great explosion, and I gotta say, I also love go to this. Another great panel is the all-encompassing of Vader's interceptor right behind.
Oh yeah, no,
Luke, and it's just like, oh shit, it's a monster movie. It's like Jaws, man. It's just like once again, I don't know that the size difference is actually like that between them, but the expressionistic nature of this giant thing enveloping you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's so
and
good.
That giant thing is Vader. He's taken out another X-Wing. Red Leader's about to get in. He fires. He gets his shot off. And we get this quick panel of there's an explosion. Everyone's like, huh? And then, no, it didn't go in. It just impacted on the surface.
So good. Yeah. So, yeah, we see that it's a hit. Everybody's negative. Just impact on the surface, as we said. He's flying out of there. Everybody's like, oh, shit, that was our chance, man. But, okay, Luke's still got a chance, right?
Right, because Vader takes out Red Leader. Now, seemingly, the only people left are Biggs, Luke, and Wedge.
Yep. And you know this because you cut to each guy in their cockpit and then cut to, ooh, a smugly satisfied Tarkin. Ooh, look at him.
Roll base, 1 minute in closing.
This is it, baby. Here it is.
The final Tarkin.
And so, yeah, this continues in on this stuff. Just like Beggar's Canyon.
Yeah, you're going too fast, Luke. You won't be able to pull out in time.
I was just going to say, except for we don't know what the hell any of that is.
It's a canyon back home.
Yeah, but it's just like we don't care about sorry, Biggs. And so, yeah, we're exploding. Lots of bamming and rearing and zatting.
Yeah, this next double page spread is another example of just like giving us all the context we need for this huge image up top of just like, holy crap, we're barreling down this corridor. The really conveying speed here as we show each of the different pilots, Biggs, Wedge, and Luke, being basically forced back into their chairs, I think is something they did really well in this comic, and it's something you can kind of lose in static adaptations of this.
Absolutely. I said the speed at which this is conveyed, that's, to me, is one of the highest compliments I can pay, particularly anything that's presenting action in a comic book, right? It's just the idea of like my eyes just going wham, wham, wham. Oh, it's just, I know some people talk about the appreciation of the art as being able to sit and look at it, but on first read, if I'm just zipping through a thing, it's because it's so compelling and so well done. It's an interesting dichotomy where you want it to be this gorgeously rendered thing, but you also are still telling a story that is going from here to here to here to here.
Well, and that was part of the compelling nature of the original Star Wars movie, right? It was just like seeing something move that fast on screen.
It'd never been done, really. Not like that. Certainly not in a space thing.
Right, exactly. So, like, that was part of the reason why people got attached to this movie, because there's just the sense of just like, holy shit, we're in the cockpit with Luke and we're racing.
I saw an interesting thing. Chris Nolan was talking about movies as he's wont to do, but he was talking about Star Wars.
He does that from time to time, yeah.
And he was saying something about, or he was going like, if the perception of Star Wars is that it was successful because it's a great story, that's missing like one of the vast majority of its appeal. He goes, it is a great story. It's a great classical story, but it is about the sound, the feeling it induced in people. Because it is so purely the hero's journey in such a classical sense. It's actually an incredibly simple story. But it is about the reason people kept going back is because they never experienced anything. It was the experience of it. All the story and character work is sound, but it is like, oh my God, I have to just live in this again. I have to soak in this again. Because he was talking about the obsession with everybody talking about plot holes and stuff today in studios really being so built on like, well, structure. You go like, boy, that is really missing a vast majority of what filmmaking is.
Well, and I think say what you will about this other franchise, but I think the only movie to really capture that sense in recent history has been the Avatar films,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Of just like that
That's the
changed
appeal.
how we felt about being in the theater in a way.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. Like the Avatar films almost, don't even need to try with their story. Not only do I think, not just because I don't think Cameron's a great writer, but it's like clearly the appeal is just the rendering of this and the transportation. But I think Dune also did an amazing job of that too. Like that movie really, like I left the theater and was almost like, wow, I'm like back on Earth. I've been somewhere else. So
Totally.
yeah, that is it's true. That's the thing about it is like, yeah, Star Wars is actually, as we're talking about, it's a mix of this and that, and it's adding classical sort of mythology and Campbellian stuff into it. But then on top of it is just, it's so enveloping you in it. Boy, you talk about incredibly expressionistic when Vader like becomes the fire and speed lines here.
Yeah. We get the ties coming in. We've got Luke swooping away, get clear wedge. And then, Vader becoming the speed lines as he's about to take out Biggs.
Yeah. And Biggs
and
just being
becoming-
consumed by fire.
Right.
Man.
We don't get the Luke reaction to Biggs' death, which I found interesting.
Yeah, because even the comic didn't give a shit about Biggs.
But it's just like, that's
Yeah.
the weird, like,
Yeah.
dissonant moment in the movie is when
Yeah.
Luke reacts to Biggs dying. And if you're watching the movie, you go, wait, who?
Well, is that guy you kind of knew from back in the day? Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's sad. I mean, objectively, that's sad, I suppose.
Sure. But, like, even this comic, which has been, like, pretty good about including everything, it's just like, oh, look, we're moving on. We're moving too fast.
It still can't get the enthusiasm up to make anything else of it. It's still just like, I don't know, man, that just won't land. So let's move on.
This shot of Vader with I'm on the leader is just like, okay, he's coming.
Yeah. No, yeah, it is. He's a real monster in this book, which I think is great because I love Vader as a figure of fear. They did that. Was it Dark Visions? That comic Marvel.
Oh,
did?
yeah, that was fun.
That's all just people's perceptions of him and stuff like that.
Didn't that have the short story where it's like the one attendant on the Death Star or the Super Star Destroyer who was like super obsessed with Vader and had this whole like parasocial relationship with him in her head?
Yeah.
That was good.
That was good stuff. That's really, I mean, we often praise the recent Marvel stuff because I think overall, generally, it's been really good. Baseline, really solid. Use the Force, Luke. Let go. Let go.
Yeah, we get this like big sequence of like the star field and
the way it's like stretching out. It's almost like, I mean, once again, it's sort of similar to that moment we talked about in the last issue with Obi-Wan's death, where it's almost like we're in Luke's head as like the world is slowing, and you know, it's something the comic is actually very hard to do in a comic. I think David Aja does it really well in the Hawkeye run too, where it's like when you show the knocking of the bow and stuff like that, and the slow, all of a sudden the world starts to slow and we're in the perception of this character. I think that does that here, where suddenly the trench stretches, the stars are coming.
Well, and the trench is still coming at us with speed, but like the fact that we stretch out into the stillness of the starscape is kind of this. I like this juxtaposition of like the stillness of space and the stars and the speed and the ferocity of the trench itself, and kind of like the balance of that being a representation of the balance of Luke connecting with the Force.
Absolutely. No, this is all
about art degree stuff here.
Yeah, man. And then here, once again, the on the next panel, or the next page, all these panels, but in the center is just Luke with the trail of energy coming off of the engines as all of this is happening, implying, once again, it's very smart. It's like these cutaways to, okay, all of this is happening in the motion of him running the trench.
Right. We get him turning his computer off, the people on the base being like, what the fuck is he doing? I love the beard guy's expression on this like third slash panel of just like, Luke, you've turned your computer off. Is something wrong?
Excuse me? Excuse me? Excuse me? Just, I don't know if you happen to notice your computer is... No. He just turns into Milton from Office Space. Just turn your computer back on. You could do the thing.
We have R2 being shot here on the bottom of the page.
Yep. A horrifying moment for all.
Of course.
Especially
and then, 3PO. But
yeah, and then okay, oh boy, I have you now. We're into, Tarkin gave the order to fire. They're, of course, in classic fashion, as we talked about. I don't remember which one of them. I think it was which one of them didn't show the reactor ignition and stuff like that. That was very.
That
we were horrified.
I mean, that was the '70s one because they didn't
know that that's like
stuff.
an incredibly and they wouldn't obviously know that now that's like an incredibly iconic moment for us. And once again, love procedure and how things work. So
because in this next page we do have like people pushing buttons and the guy who pulls the lever.
It's like it continues to be this like here, we're cutting there, which is doing a thing that once again was annoying because it was done so poorly in the special edition adaptation, was cutting into the Death Star, cutting out to the Death Star. It didn't make sense. Here you're actually getting the sense of this is happening. It's all building the tension of it. And then yes, the all dark, but the white slitted eyes of Vader, and I have you now.
Yeah, no, I love that stuff.
And then boom, he gets hit, and it's the
TIE fighter blows up. The Falcon. This is another classic like face outside of a ship that's moving moment.
Yep. It's great, and the way that the speed line, it's the white and the lines that make Han, and then the speed lines going through the black of his hair and vest.
Yeah, with his Yahoo!
It's great, man. And what we don't get is my favorite part of that in the movie, which is the what?
We get it on the last page because one of the TIE fighters blows up on this bottom panel after Vader says, I have you now. And there is
you do. It's a what from, I mean, and you're not going to get it because you're not, I mean, that they do put it in, but you're not going to get just that moment. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Love it.
All we really get is Vader turning briefly in the bottom of the Han reveal page, and then his wingtip touches another wingtip, which causes Vader to go spinning off into space.
I love the way that it's this like spiral effect on Vader.
Yeah, it's very like trippy, like 60s art.
They're doing a lot to convey the motion, and then the spinning out trail of Vader swirling away is very cool.
Yeah. We get the big splash page here of Luke taking his shot after Han says, now let's blow this thing and go home.
And I do like when we're cutting into everything's firing, everybody's flying away, and you get, as you do in the movie, that one last smug shot of Tarkin before he gets blown to hell.
Stand by, everybody flying away, Tarkin looking smug. Then
Love
it's just far shot of the Death Star, little pop, and then boom! This page here of just like the light cascading.
The build on it is great because you do get you get the spark of it, and then the full magnitude of it exploding.
Yeah, I love the highlights of Yavin and Yavin 4 just like blossoming with the Death Star explosion behind them. Yep. It's so good.
And they're flying away, and then we have our heroes flying out of the wake of the explosion.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's happy except for Vader, who's just cloaked in darkness.
How long have you been flying around out there? Oh, you've got to smell like a footlocker.
Yeah, we never do really get the story of like who picked him up and like how long was he out there.
What do you mean they blew it up?
Yeah. The hell's an aluminum falcon? That's my favorite one. Hello?
The robot chicken sketch of Palpatine
Emperor
picking up the phone. And it's
getting
Vader.
the call. What? The hell's an aluminum falcon?
No, it's fine. It's just you're telling me a bunch of fucking teenagers blew up the Death Star.
I love Seth MacFarlane's Palpatine voice, not because it's like incredibly accurate, but just his comedic take on Palpatine being like, what? Oh.
Yeah.
So everybody's back together. They're happy and celebrating. They did it.
Hooray! I knew you'd come back. Well, I wouldn't let you take all the credit.
But oh no, R2's in trouble, and you can tell because on his screen is a swirling like hypnosis effect.
Well, that's the classic. It's the manga trope of just like somebody who's super out of it
Right,
is
going,
always going to have swirlies in their eyes. Yeah.
And 3PO is crying even though he's a robot.
It's expressing emotion. And
No, I get it.
Yeah. Hard cut to this matte painting of all these guys in the background.
I do like, once again, the clicking of the boots as they're walking. It's all, just nice touches like that. And there they go. Yeah.
The last 3 pages of this are just like, it always strikes me just like how abruptly A New Hope ends.
Yeah.
Because, like, yeah, they go down there, they get their medals, everyone's happy, R2's all better, everyone's smiling, people are clapping for the heroes.
I love the obviously, so much of this is when you talk about the abruptness of it, so much of it is done through Williams' music, because his medal ceremony music is epic and incredible. But yeah, the movie really does end with like, you want to see some more of this?
Mm-hmm. Something that's just striking me right now.
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't Wedge also getting a medal right now?
Well, yeah, man. Everybody talks about Chewie. Nobody talks about Chewie. At least is up there, man. Wedge is even up on the damn stage.
I'm saying, like, he made it back.
Yeah, man. He did as much as Han did.
Yeah, 100%.
So, man, I am tired of Wedge Antilles' erasure. So goddamn tired of it.
But yeah, then we get this last page. The end. It's over.
The end. It's episode 4, A New Hope. The end. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. So that was the manga adaptation of Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope.
We've done it,
John.
Yeah.
I know you don't read a lot of manga.
I don't.
What are your takeaways from this?
Well, like I said, I think the thing, and it's something I've been saying through this, the thing that makes this the most exciting to me is it's the most unique. It actually feels like somebody is bringing their take on it. It doesn't feel like they are being slavishly devoted. They're also not rejecting what's there either, or like trying to like, well, we're going to do our version of it, and go our own way. But it really feels like somebody who loves this movie is using their art form to express it and to present it in that way. And I think that's why it is the most exciting, because it's the only thing that feels like it isn't just like, well, we're here because they want a comic of it. Even if they were contracted to do it, it almost feels like somebody going like, I know how to do that. That's going to be cool. So I feel like there's so much more passion and love and detail in this than there is in the other adaptations that really feel like, well, we just got to kind of do this. Like even the Marvel one sort of feels like, well, we got to do this and then we'll get to our own thing, or right. the New Hope one, or the special edition one really, really feels like we just have to get this out right now. I don't care. Like this just needs to come out on this date. This one really feels like I'm going to make the manga version of Star Wars, and I'm going to use all the strengths of manga to convey this movie, because it's very hard to translate a movie to the page, obviously, because you're losing a lot. So what they're doing is by going like, okay, well, if we're losing all these things, what can we then gain and do differently and present the exact same story? So it really does feel like a translation, a true adaptation, as opposed to just sort of presenting stuff.
Well, and I think a big part of that, we talk a lot, because I think one of the cornerstones of our even like take on Star Wars as a comic book is this balance between art and commercialism, right? Like that's inherent in the subject matter we've chosen to discuss. And a big part of this particular adaptation is you're already limiting your audience of who could consume a thing by making it a Star Wars thing. And you're limiting it even more by making it this very specific cultural adaptation of a art style of comic books that Western audiences who would be the most familiar with Star Wars are maybe a little bit hesitant to put their toe into, because of these like cultural tropes and the trappings and the art style that is maybe a little off-putting to people.
Yeah.
So to not play on its strengths and to solely be a commercial venture, why would you even bother making a manga adaptation to begin with if that was the case?
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. And that's very much like, why would I really felt that was, particularly with that special edition adaptation, is just like, why the hell? This is just a worse version of the movie. This is, I'm almost not even comparing it, because oh, I see what they're doing. They're telling this movie story in this form.
Yeah.
This has a reason to exist. The other one does not.
I joked at the top of the episode, but I really do think so far this is my favorite adaptation in comic book form of Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope.
Totally.
I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, absolutely.
To the point where, like, I want to go track down a physical copy. We read this digitally, but, like, I would love to own this.
I mean, I'm not going to go there, but that's
Sure.
fine.
I have a manga shelf. You don't.
Right, exactly. But like I said, I do. But as I've been saying to people, if you're looking at, if you're asking us, if there's one to own, it's this. I don't own the other adaptations. I don't really, even beyond manga, I don't really buy adaptations of stuff. But I think this one is, like I said, the art in it, the representation, regardless if it's telling the story, just their renderings of characters and sequences are worth having as just a piece of art. It's really nice. It's really well done. And I think something, one of the things I want to track, as we've talked about this sort of commercial versus artistic debate, is one of the big things when we're doing the 70s stuff, Star Wars is brand new. What I'm fascinated to see is as we get into the 90s and then the 2000s, there's going to be more people like us who grew up on it, who are creating it out of a love and nostalgia for a thing. And I think that's a totally different treatment of it than either people who've been contracted and, I don't know about the people who made the special edition adaptation. That was clearly like, under the gun, you have to do this. You don't even have time to think about it. It's just got to be this thing. Or, like I said, the 70s, where it's like Star Wars, or if you read the Marvel history book, which I highly recommend, they bought it because nobody else wanted it, and they were just like, I guess this is cheap, and maybe somebody will be interested in the space.
And Marvel just needed to take any job that they could get.
They just needed to take,
and they were basically bankrupt.
And all they had, they literally go, "There's some space movie shooting in the desert right now. Do you want to do the rights to that?" They're like, I guess. I mean, people forget there was a 2001: A Space Odyssey comic, which is sadly not on the app, I think, due to the rights for it, and it's not available in any reprints. I would love to do a series about that because it's Jack Kirby who did the 2001: A Space Odyssey comic, and it is crazy, crazy stuff.
And I believe it hews pretty close to the book too.
Yeah, well, because it's similar to Star Wars in that, like, the first whatever chunk of it, he adapts the movie, and then he just goes off, man. So it becomes Jack Kirby's take on Arthur C. Clarke mythos, and it is nuts. I can't recommend that enough. It's just
it's harder to track down.
Yeah, because it's a Warner Brothers movie, and now it's Marvel, which is owned by Disney, and so it's the same thing with a lot of the Marvel Star Trek comics that I keep trying to. If you ever see me digging through back issue bins, I'm looking for old Star Trek comics because Star Trek. Star Wars has gone from Marvel to Dark Horse back to Marvel. Star Trek has been at Marvel, DC, Malibu. It's currently at IDW. It's Star Trek has been all over the place. So
wow. We've got a couple more. I'm not even going to call them adaptations, but there's a couple more takes on New Hope that we'll be covering in comic book form. But those will be a little bit down the road. We've got the Infinities version, and we've got the Star Wars, which I'm curious.
Yeah, that I read right when it came out, and I haven't revisited it since. And the Infinity,
but we'll get there eventually. For now, we're going to go back to the 70s for a while.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Where are we going with the 70s, Gargoni?
We are just about, we're at the cusp of getting towards Empire Strikes Back. So we've got a couple of arcs before we get there, but Vader is finally back in the book, so that's a big turning point for the comic of just like, oh wait, this comic has a bad guy. We forgot about him for a while.
Our boyfriend's back, and there's gonna be trouble.
You know it. We're gonna have a Darth Vader meets Valance the Bounty Hunter crossover here pretty soon.
I do. Yeah. I've been waiting for them to get back to Valance too, because they set up that character who's so cool, and I have read other stuff with that character. So, but just his introduction was so awesome, and then they haven't done much with him since. And
we'll be getting some. I'll say that much.
I need that. I mean, I know he has a book now, and I can read about his adventures every month over at Marvel, but
it's true. But for now, I think that's going to do it for May the Panel Be With You. Obviously, the best way to support us, if you're watching us on YouTube, you can click follow, subscribe. You can comment down below.
Ring that
let us know what you liked, and if you decided to by the manga adaptation if we have so swayed you. And
Sure.
yeah, ring the bell if you want to hear all of the updates
Yeah.
from us over here
Of course,
at Punch Up
go
Entertainment.
and support us on our Podbean patron page. That's patron.podbean.com/punchup. There you can support the show as well as get cool exclusive episodes from all of our shows.
Yes, indeed. But I think that's going to do it for us over here at this show. And for now, I've been Mike Rigoni.
I'm John Campbell.
And may the panel be with you.